everyone, welcome to the Primary 6 YouTube channel. This video is for Primary 6a, 6b and P6-7. Hope everyone's keeping well and staying safe. Stay tuned to find more about your learning for this week. This week's Literacy Garden strategy is all about metalinguistics. If you watched last week's video about Winston's web of words, you will have seen that we mentioned how it has a link to this week's strategy. So it's definitely helpful to have a look at that first if you have not already. And this follows on from that, although it can also be a separate task as well. But if you have your work you did last week with Winston's web of words, that would be very helpful. And it must be obvious the link between Ollie the Owl and Metalinguistics and Winston's web of words, because as you can see from here, they are both all about words. So we're really focusing on developing pupils' vocabulary over the course of the last 2 weeks. And of course this can have a knock-on effect on their other literacy skills and writing and just their general knowledge of word meanings. So metalinguistics, as an extension to last week, is using tools to take a much closer look and analysis of words that we have selected. So once you've got your list of tricky words, you can use or tricky or interesting words, sorry. You might want to use the same list you had last week, or you might want to spend a bit of time, maybe you've got a different book, selecting another list of tricky words. Remember last week we said anything up to about 10 is a good range, maybe 5's enough. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or you could really push yourself and try and go further, of course. There isn't really a limit, obviously, though at some point the task does become an extremely long task if you're going to keep finding tricky words. However, we've got an example for you here. Excuse me, we have selected the interesting word from our book, awkward. And our first step is to look up that word in a dictionary. Last week we spoke about looking at the word closely and kind of predicting or guessing what we think the word means based on that. Using metalinguistics, we are going to actually look on a dictionary, whether it's a traditional dictionary book or obviously online, often at our fingertips on tablets and smartphones. You can now access Google, which gives us access to a dictionary, which is used much more often, much more regularly in the modern times. So that is completely acceptable too. Pupils are used to using this with the iPads in class as well. But yeah, so we can use a dictionary to actually look up the meaning of the word. And it's good to compare this with our prediction of what the word means, because it might be slightly different. Maybe it adds to what we know about the word. Maybe there is more than one meaning. You maybe don't have to write them down. You can have a read of them and pick out the main one, but it is good to be aware of them all. Here I've written down the definition for awkward after looking it up. Causing difficulty or hard to deal with. And this can be a task that you complete on its own. You can have the list of words and then next to it write the definitions of those words. Following on from our dictionary work and looking at the definition of words, it's really helpful to show that we understand the word meanings by then using it in a sentence. And here we can show off that we've learned this new word, or we know how to use this interesting word. And of course you can write a very interesting sentence. It can be a silly sentence. It can be as creative as you like. I've just done a simple example here showing my understanding of the word awkward based on the meaning that we had in the last part of the video. So the shopkeeper didn't want to deal with the awkward customer, and I've underlined awkward because that is the word we have chosen. And again, this can be something you do for your entire list of words. So as an extension to the dictionary task, it is a good idea for pupils to further develop their word knowledge through using metalinguistics and then use a thesaurus. Again, this can be a more traditional thesaurus in a book form, or it could be an online version. So using a thesaurus, we are able to look at synonyms for our tricky words that we have found. So when looking up the word awkward, we have came across the words cumbersome and tricky as synonyms for the word awkward. and then we can follow on this in our next part of the video. So as a final part to our metalinguistic skills, we then use the synonyms in a further sentence, which can show our understanding of the words. So we've selected the word cumbersome here, and I've double checked in an online dictionary just to double check exactly what it means. Sometimes synonyms, although have the same meaning, it might be in a slightly different context. So here it means something large or heavy and therefore difficult to carry or use. So I've used a different sentence here. His cumbersome school bag caused him difficulty during his walk to school. And again, this can be something you do for your entire tricky word list. And by the end of this task, you should have a much greater understanding of different vocabulary you could use in your literacy tasks. Thank you for listening. As always, if there's any questions, please remember just to ask your teachers on Teams. Thank you, and we'll see you next week.